first question, do you like sports?
I love sports.
Yeah.
Grew up playing
Yeah.
sports.
And which sports do you love most?
Football.
Football?
But I grew up playing soccer my
Yeah.
whole life, and then in
Yeah.
high school transitioned to football.
Okay. And so what lessons do you learn from it? From football?
I think the biggest thing that you learn is how to work with different people, because at least in the sports that I played growing up, it was very team oriented, and you learn in some cases how to lead, you learn how to follow. I think that's a very important trait that a lot of people don't focus on, but understanding how to follow a leader. But I think that you just get a very special set of social skills working in sports growing up.
Yes. So how these lessons affect your future career life?
I mean, I think that really just working with people. So whenever you transition from if you even stop playing sports as a child and you go to college for the first time, and then you kind of learn. For me, an easy way to meet people is going to the rec center and playing pickup basketball, and you get to meet a lot of different people, and then those connections stay with you. So then when you start looking for internships, co-ops, full-time positions, you might have that connection, that network with someone, or you're just used to meeting new people. But now, in my role specifically, and I mean, you've seen a lot of our student employees, it's a very diverse staff, and learning how to work with different people and trying to figure out how do they like to be motivated. And I think that by having that experience growing up and having different coaches, having different teammates, I think that played a huge role in my ability to kind of work with a lot of different people.
Yeah. And so when did you start working in the wellness and recreation?
So wellness and recreation here at State specifically about a year and a half ago, but I've been working in collegiate recreation since 2012. So I've been doing this for a little while, either as undergraduate student or a graduate assistant role at UNC Greensboro, and then now in my first full-time position here at NC State Wellness and Recreation.
So what is the most challengeable part of working here?
The most challenging?
Yeah.
I think that it's the scope of everything that we do. So I am the facility operations coordinator, and so with that, we're balancing our informal recreation offerings, making sure that everybody has something to do when they come here, balancing athletics because they are in our space. We have swim and dive, we have gymnastics, cheer, we have a lot of different athletic groups in here. We have divisions across campus that come in here and want to use our space. We have external reservations. We have so much going on, and it's prioritizing everybody's needs, because everybody has their needs. But unfortunately, we can't be all things to all people, but we have to do our due diligence in that, and we try to make sure that if we are falling short somewhere, whether it's the cleanliness of a certain area of the facility or the offerings that we provide or the way that we support some of our program areas, we need to make sure that that is on par and we're exceeding expectations, not just meeting them. And I think that's the most challenging part, is that we're not just trying to meet the expectations, we're trying to always push forward and exceed those expectations.
Gotcha. So can you describe what is your philosophy of working with students and its relationship to education?
So one thing that I try to tell all students is, like, when you come and work here, we are student employee ran, right? You know this, you are one of our student employees. And so my philosophy is that our job, or I'll break it down like this. My job is to make sure that Carmichael Complex is running as smooth as it can, and that we are giving all users the premier experience. That is our end goal, right? But for you, you're here as a college student, right? And more than likely, your field, you're not specifically interested in going into collegiate recreation. So my job then turns to making sure that I'm developing you on the soft skills, not just how to operate our access system or our equipment rental system, because that's a very hard skill. You know rec track. But how am I preparing you for the next step? Conflict resolution skills, communication skills, how to troubleshoot an issue, taking initiative. And so that's my philosophy, is that I don't ever want to, I guess the word that's coming to my mind is kind of coddle or baby any students. I want to push you. I want to make you think a little bit, and I want to challenge the way that you see things. And when you start working with such a diverse student staff, you start to do things differently. You start thinking differently, and then now it's my turn to push you. And when there's a problem, instead of just coming to me to fix the problem, I want to put it back on you. What have you tried to do to fix it? Try and challenge you, because that's the stuff that whenever you go on to your next job, that's what speaks volumes. The fact that if you can respond to a major medical emergency and you're calm, cool, and collected, you can respond to any other conflict that might arise. It's things like that. It's the soft skills. We can't really tell you we are going to make sure that you can write a memo on X, but I can make sure that we've made you communicate in different modes. When you email people, if you send me an email, if it's not a very professional email, I might send it back to you and say, try that again, because that's for your development. On the discipline side, if you're late 5 minutes, like some people might say that's not a big deal, but when you're in the real world and you're 5 minutes late consistently, your supervisor will write you up. And so I'm going to go ahead and prepare you for that. So that is my philosophy, is that I might be a little bit harder on staff, but it's because my job is to make sure that when you leave Wellness and Recreation and leave NC State, you are better for it.
Gotcha. And so how do you deal with issues from different groups of people?
I think it's the first thing is just listening, right? Because we talked about all the different people that have space in our facility and use our facility. And it's just listening to their needs and trying to identify, like, let's clarify, like, this is what I'm hearing, let me just make sure we're on the same page. And once we do that, I think it's just trying to be as transparent as possible. We have groups all the time that talk to us and they want more space or they want to be moved over here. And sometimes that's not possible for us because there's already a reservation over here, or we have programming going on, whatever it might be. But as long as we listen to them and that we're just very transparent, hey, this is the why behind why we can't move you, or why we don't have extra space. But our goal is to always provide the premier experience. And if there's a way for us to support whatever event or whatever a group needs, that we will do our due diligence to make sure that we do that. Again, that's my job, right? In facility operations, we're kind of the backbone, right? Like, even though we're not a program area, we are the support for everything, right? And so we do get a lot of different questions, a lot of different comments or needs and wants from a lot of different groups. But as long as we're prioritizing and we're taking action on that, then we've done our job.
Gotcha. And then, can you describe a sport industrial field? Can you describe a sport industrial field?
Like, just describe the field?
Just what do you think about it?
I think that, so sports industry, I will speak to collegiate recreation, because that's what I've done. And I mean, it's a field that is very exciting right now, and it's one in which you're dealing with a lot of different people, and you get that opportunity. It's very fast paced, so that's something that a lot of people need to be ready for, because of what we do. Everything happens bam, 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 and things progress very quickly around here. And I think that it's an industry that's really starting to push the bill, and it's trying new things. I think we're in a cool time where there's a lot of facility enhancements. We're under a $45 million addition and renovation, and we're trying new things, new programming, because we're starting to see that in some areas, what used to work doesn't work. In some of our program offerings, or how we're reaching out to students, we need to rethink innovative ways of how do we reach the user, how do we impact their life, and so that's what's really going on in our field, is really taking a deeper look at innovation. And it doesn't have to be a brand new sport. We're not making things up. It doesn't have to be that type of innovation, but maybe some process innovation. Like, we want to get to the same goal, but the process of getting there, let's think differently about how we get there. Sometimes the end goal isn't what needs to change, but there might be a more efficient way. And I think a lot of schools around the nation are really starting to, one, make the shift to wellness, right? You see a lot of we used to be university recreation or campus recreation, so we're making that shift towards wellness. So we're already thinking that forward thinking, and like it's all about the student's holistic wellness because they are a student, right?
Yeah.
But then you also see that push for financial stability, and how you are generating your revenue. How are you mitigating or reducing expenses in creative ways? And again, that can either come from just a brand new item or some process innovation to cut cost.
Gotcha. And then how would you support students, employees when they work here?
I just try to be as available as possible. One thing that I never want to be is in my office all the time, because then I'm not in tune with the pulse of what's going on in the facility. So I'm always out and about. We have bi-weekly meetings.
Yeah.
So some people say that, like, we don't, why do we need bi-weekly meetings? But it's because we're going to make sure that we're on top of everything. We're not going to let anything fester for a whole month. We're going to get on top of it. And that's how I support. I make sure that I'm as available as possible, and that if I need to get in the weeds with you, I'm going to get in the weeds with you, because nobody's better than the job.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure, again, the ultimate goal is giving people the premier experience. And if that means I need to get back there and help out with some laundry because we're down to one washer right now, then I'm going to do that, because that's what it takes. And so that's how I will always support the students. But then also, again, pushing them. And it doesn't seem like support right off the bat, because it's like, well, he's just being really strict. No, I'm supporting you, and I'm never going to ask you to do more than I don't think you can do. But whenever we're done here, you're going to look back, and hopefully if I've done my job right and I've supported you and pushed you in the right way, you're going to be so much better, and you're going to see where you came from. You're going to be so excited about the opportunities that you have in the future.
And then how do you plan on improving yourself from year to year?
I think for me, it's always trying new things. So when I first got here, the goal was to really get staff to the level where they're executing what they need to at a much higher level. I think that it was really building the ship and putting a ton of resources and infrastructure in place. And so that's what we were doing this past year, or my first year, was really like, what resources do they want? What resources do they need? How are we getting that to them, and how is it easily accessible? And so that was a large undertaking, but the staff came back and they were just like, this is great, because we finally, they saw that we support them. That was another way we supported them, and they started to see their value, like, wow, I do all this, and like, it is important that I understand all of this. And then whenever, hopefully, everyone's goal is to move up to supervisor, and then there's even more resources, more training that goes into it. And so that was the first year. Now I think it's just trying new things and getting myself kind of in a different comfort zone. And I'm dealing more with projects now. So we brought on the new staff, the specialist staff, working with grout projects, IT projects within the department. So that's for my development, to get more of the project-based stuff done instead of our, I would call it more human resource type work. And because we've put those resources in place, now our program assistants can really help out with that while I focus on the projects. So then the next year, who knows, right? It's always about developing, one, the students, but then also yourself. And I think that the best way to do that is if there's even something that mildly interests you and that it can be beneficial and add value to our department, try something new. Because it might be hard. It's something different. You haven't ever done it before, but you'll be better for it. So I always say, try something new. Never get stagnant. That's where it gets dangerous, is when you get stagnant.
Gotcha. And do you have experience of working with student athletes?
I don't. The most that I have working with student athletes is when they come and work for the rec center. And in those cases, it's a little bit different, right? Because their schedule is a little bit more strict about when they can work and when game day and all that kind of stuff is. And sometimes the hours that they can work. So on that front, I've done it, but I've never worked specifically with athletes.
And then because college sports become more popular, and what causes this trend, this situation?
For me, I think it's just the need for involvement. I think a lot of people want to be involved in something bigger than just themselves, and so that's where team sport comes in. And I think it's always really kind of been like that. I think that everyone has different motivations to want to
Yeah.
play sport, but also I think that when you look around today, you see more and more different sports coming up, and
Yeah.
like more sports are taking popularity, even if it's just individual sports.
Yeah.
E-gaming is coming along.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different avenues that people are taking to keep things fresh. And I think that as society becomes more and more aware of diversity and inclusivity, I think that that comes with new games, new sports, new ways for entertainment. And that just gets more and more people involved. So when the more and more people get involved, you see those higher trends, those higher participations. But with that, you might see decreases in other sports, maybe more of the traditional football, basketball, and you'll see increases in other sports. I don't have any data to back that up, but that's just what I believe we are going to start seeing.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.